busco la paz y siempre he predicado la paz y he anhelado la paz.
Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria, better known as Pablo Escobar, was born in Rio Negro, Colombia, in the year 1949. As a child, Pablo Escobar grew up in poverty, but his humble early life was not a reflection of his ambitions. As a child, Escobar dreamed of doing something great, possibly even being the president of Colombia. Due to his meek circumstances, Escobar could only think of one way to climb to the top: through crime. Escobar's criminal offenses started in his youth. He began to steal cars, which eventually led to his time as a smuggler. Colombia was the perfect location for smuggling. Colombia's location at the top of South America was its huge geographical advantage. Before Escobar, marijuana was a substance smuggled most across borders. Escobar took this practice one step further. Escobar entered into the business of producing and smuggling cocaine, which would soon prove to be the start of his legacy in the 1970s and into the 1980s as one of the world's biggest narcotic kingpins. Escobar's reign as a drug lord was not without its consequences, both positive and negative. Pablo Escobar's group for trafficking his cocaine was called the Medellin Cartel. This business allowed him to become noted as one of Forbes' billionaires. Although much of this money was used to support his lavish lifestyle for him and his family, he used some of it to give back. Escobar tried to give some young Colombians the support he never had. Escobar organized and sponsored soccer teams and other youth organizations. Reverting to his childhood ambitions, Escobar sponsored these groups in order to propel his campaign as president of Colombia forward. This dream was never fulfilled, as Escobar's criminal path, including the assassinations of those that had wronged him, were revealed. Although this seems purely negative, this was an immense triumph for the United States. As Escobar's drugs poured in, crime and death rates skyrocketed. Americans were overdosing on the cocaine that was flowing into the states, and the U.S. government's Drug Enforcement Agency were actively trying to put an end to this huge problem. So, when Escobar was finally proved to be the source of many drug-related crimes, this was the jackpot for America's DEA. With the spotlight on Escobar and his criminal history, the DEA agents could proceed forward with their plans to imprison Escobar on American soil. Some other triumphs due to Escobar's crimes can be seen today in Colombia.
25 years after Pablo's death, gone are the larger-than-life drug lords. Colombia's drug syndicates no longer resemble the flashy cartels that once monopolized the drug trade.
As you could expect, most Colombian citizens rejected the violence. Still, drug trafficking shaped society.
Escobar's hypocrisy and recklessness attached to his drug cartel was the source of many tragedies for Colombia and the United States.
Tengo muy buenos amigos en la iglesia, obispos, sacerdotes, médicos, abogados, en los barrios populares, pero mis mejores amigos están en la comunidad de los tugurios, en el basurero.
When the government cracked down, Pablo Escobar pushed back. He killed ministers, bombed the Colombian capital, and even called for the death of policemen who didn't accept bribes.
Escobar claimed to love and cared deeply for Colombia's lower-class citizens. Yet Escobar knowingly let them become collateral damage in order to stay in power and carry out threats. The tragedies surrounding Escobar were not contained to his home country. As his cocaine spread throughout America, so did the tragedy. Escobar's drugs claimed thousands of lives across the United States. Escobar's seemingly unlimited supplies of cocaine allowed for the average American to purchase the drugs at a low price. Cocaine was at its peak in the U.S. during the year 1982, with 10.4 million users. This was all thanks to Pablo Escobar and his Medellin cartel, as he controlled 80% of the worldwide cocaine market. One major event can be seen as both a triumph and a tragedy: the death of Pablo Escobar. After years of collaboration, investigation, and raids from America's DEA and the Colombian National Police, the hunt for the notorious Colombian kingpin was over. Escobar was shot and killed on a rooftop on December 2, 1993. This was a huge triumph for the United States and Colombian government. Escobar's days of manipulating, threatening, and assassination were finally over. This chase for Escobar was also a triumph in that two countries worked together to reach a common goal that would benefit both. In another aspect, the death of Pablo Escobar was a tragedy, and not just for his family. To those in Colombia's lower, struggling class, Escobar was considered as the Robin Hood. Escobar bought houses for those that could not afford them and gave back to his poor town of Medellin. His death also meant that a local hero had died, and that there was no figure to turn to when in need of financial help for those who needed it. In summation, triumphs and tragedies are never clear-cut or black and white. The effects and legend of Pablo Escobar is a prime example to this overarching message. Escobar's criminal acts allowed him to give help to those who needed it most, and to gift others with the things he wished to have been given to him in his youth. The hunt for Escobar allowed the United States and Colombia to create a relationship with one another. In turn, Escobar's criminal acts and means by which he accumulated wealth hurt, killed, and victimized many innocent bystanders and those speaking out against his violence. Triumph and tragedy can be seen in every inch of all historical occurrences, in which they are subjective to those experiencing them. The legend of Pablo Escobar is proof that tragedy and triumph will go hand in hand as long as time exists.